that community was revealed for all to see in the minutes and hours and days after the tragedy. Rescuers, risking their own safety, scouring narrow tunnels saturated with methane and carbon monoxide. Hoping against hope they might find a survivor. Friends keeping porch lights on in a nightly vigil. Hanging up homemade signs that read, "Pray for our miners and their families." Neighbors consoling each other, and supporting each other and leaning on one another. I've seen it, the strength of that community. In the days that followed the disaster, emails and letters poured into the White House. Postmarked from different places across the country, they often began the same way. I am proud to be from a family of miners. I am the son of a coal miner. I am proud to be a coal miner's daughter. They were always proud, and they asked me to keep our miners in my thoughts, in my prayers. Never forget, they say, miners keep America's lights on. And then in these letters, they make a simple plea, don't let this happen again. Don't let this happen again. How can we fail them? How can a nation that relies on its miners not do everything in its power to protect them? How can we let anyone in this country put their lives at risk by simply showing up to work? By simply pursuing the American dream. We cannot bring back the 29 men we lost. They are with the Lord now. Our task, here on earth, is to save lives from being lost in another such tragedy. To do what must do, individually and collectively. To assure safe conditions underground, to treat our miners like they treat each other, like a family. Because we are all family and we are all Americans. And we have to lean on one another, and look out for one another, and love one another, and pray for one another. There's a psalm that comes to mind today, a psalm that comes to mind. A psalm we often turn to in times of heartache. Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. For you are with me, your rod and your staff, they comfort me. God bless our miners. God bless their families. God bless West Virginia. And God bless the United States of America. Barack Obama. Address to the peoples of Europe. Delivered April 25, 2016, Hanover Messe Building 35, Hanover, Germany. Guten Tag. It is wonderful to see all of you, and I want to begin by thanking Chancellor Merkel for being here. To the members of the Bundestag, Prime Minister Weil, Mayor Skostak, distinguished guests, people of Germany. And I'm especially pleased to see the young people here from Germany and across Europe. We also have some proud Americans here. I have to admit that I have developed a special place in my heart for the German people. Back when I was a candidate for this office, you welcomed me with a small rally in Berlin. where I spoke of the change that's possible when the world stands as one. As president, you've treated me and Michelle and our daughters to wonderful hospitality. You've offered me excellent beer and Weisswurst in Krun. You've now hosted our delegation here in Hanover. My only regret is that I have never been to Germany for Oktoberfest. And as always, I bring the friendship of the American people. We consider the German people, and all of our European allies, to be among our closest friends in the world because we share so much experience and so many of the same values. We believe that nations and peoples should live in security and peace. We believe in creating opportunity that lifts up not just the few but the many. And I'm proud to be the first American president to come to Europe and be able to say that. In the United States, healthcare is not a privilege, it is now a right for all. We share that as well. Perhaps most importantly, we believe in the equality and inherent dignity of every human being. Today in America, people have the freedom to marry the person that they love. We believe in justice, that no child in the world should ever die from a mosquito bite. That no one should suffer from the ache of an empty stomach, that, together, we can save our planet and the world's most vulnerable. People from the worst effects of climate change. These are things that we share. It's born of common experience. And this is what I want to talk to you about today, the future that we are building together. Not separately, but together. And that starts right here in Europe. And I want to begin with an observation that, given the challenges that we face in the world and the headlines we see every day, may seem improbable, but it's true. We are fortunate to be living in the most peaceful, most prosperous, most progressive era in human history. That may surprise young people who are watching TV or looking at your phones, and it seems like only bad news comes through every day. But consider that it's been decades since the last war between major powers. More people live in democracies. We're wealthier and healthier and better educated, with a global economy that has lifted up more than a billion people from extreme poverty, and created new middle classes from the Americas to Africa to Asia. Think about the health of the average person in the world, tens of millions of lives. That we now save from disease and infant mortality, and people now living longer lives? Around the world, we're more tolerant with more opportunity for women. And gays and lesbians, as we push back on bigotry and prejudice. And around the world, there's a new generation of young people like you that are connected by technology. And driven by your idealism and your imagination, and you're working together to start new ventures. And to hold governments more accountable, and advance human dignity. If you had to choose a moment in time to be born, any time in human history, and you didn't know ahead of time what nationality you were or what gender or what your economic status might be, you'd choose today, which isn't to say that there is not still enormous suffering and enormous tragedy and so much work for us to do. it is to remember that the trajectory of our history over the last 50, 100 years has been remarkable. And we can't take that for granted. And we should take confidence in our ability to be able to shape our own destiny. Now, that doesn't mean that we can be complacent because today dangerous forces do threaten to pull the world backward, and our progress is not inevitable. These challenges threaten Europe and they threaten our transatlantic community. We're not immune from the forces of change around the world. As they have elsewhere, barbaric terrorists have slaughtered innocent people in Paris and Brussels. And Istanbul and San Bernardino, California. And we see these tragedies in places central to our daily lives, an airport or cafe. A workplace or a theater, and it unsettles us. It makes us unsure in our day-to-day lives, fearful not just for ourselves but those that we love. Conflicts from South Sudan to Syria to Afghanistan have sent millions fleeing, seeking the relative safety of Europe's shores. But that puts new strains on countries and local communities, and threatens to distort our politics. Russian aggression has flagrantly violated the sovereignty and territory of an independent European nation. Ukraine, and that unnerves our allies in Eastern Europe. Threatening our vision of a Europe that is whole, free, and at peace. And it seems to threaten the progress that's been made since the end of the Cold War. Slow economic growth in Europe, especially in the South, has left millions unemployed. including a generation of young people without jobs and who may look to the future with diminishing hopes. And all these persistent challenges have led some to question whether European integration can long endure. Whether you might be better off separating off. Redrawing some of the barriers and the laws between nations that existed in the 20th century. Across our countries, including in the United States. A lot of workers and families are still struggling to recover from the worst economic crisis in generations. And that trauma of millions who lost their jobs and their homes and their savings is still felt. And meanwhile, there are profound trends underway that have been going on for decades: globalization, automation that in some cases, of depressed wages, and made workers in a weaker position to bargain for better working conditions. Wages have stagnated in many advanced countries while other costs have gone up. Inequality has increased. And for many people, it's harder than ever just to hold on. This is happening in Europe. We see some of these trends in the United States and across the advanced economies. And these concerns and anxieties are real. They are legitimate. They cannot be ignored. And they deserve solutions from those in power. Unfortunately, in the vacuum, if we do not solve these problems, you start seeing those who would try to exploit these fears and frustrations and channel them in a destructive way. A creeping emergence of the kind of politics that the European project was founded to reject in us. Versus them mentality that tries to blame our problems on the other, somebody who doesn't look like us or doesn't pray like us, whether it's immigrants, or Muslims, or somebody who is deemed different than us.